Ini
Udah
RAM-nya
clear?
sih.
Tadi ada suaranya nggak?
Ada.
Tadi sempat ada.
Oke. Oke, aku play ya.
Oke.
One, how to build neighbors we actually like. The title, ya. Oke, we can watch it. 1, 2, 3.
Why do humans build environments that they don't want to live in? Because this is what we have done all over the planet.
In a city, you're packed in by buildings and infrastructure. In a suburb, everything is pretty spread out. Either of these can leave people feeling isolated and void of something cozy or communal. You know, like a neighborhood.
Neighborhood isn't a place. Neighborhood is a state of mind. A real place, you don't only see it, you smell it, you touch it. And there's something about our brains, they say, hang on a second, ooh, this is nice. It empowers us to have much more fulfilling and much more pleasant lives.
Why does this matter? Well, the neighborhood you live in affects just about every aspect of your health and happiness.
The optimal environment, I think, combines the best of human civilization and culture and creativity and all these incredible things that we have generated.
David and Myra are architects at Gel, a design firm that helps design cities that are better for humans. So, how do you build the ideal neighborhood? This is Hard Reset, a series about rebuilding our world from scratch. This is David Sim. He's an architect at Gel and starts his design process by using Legos. Right now, he's showing us, if you have a clean slate, the key features that make a perfect neighborhood. Like, how tall should the buildings be?
The ideal height of a building is 4 stories. How our senses work. Now, up to the 4th floor, our eyes can still read the street. We can see people, we can see expression. Our voices are strong enough that we can shout out to someone. It's also like our hearing distance, that we can hear what people are saying. Because if you go above 4 stories, you lose connection. If we can make a physical structure which at least invites the possibility that different kinds of people might live in the same place, there are huge personal benefits. But of course, in societal terms, it's a two-way relationship always. It can make for a better community, a better society, a better neighborhood.
And once
Nah, tadi katanya apa? Awal-awal dia bilang, neighborhoods itu bukan soal bangunan ya. Dia bilang itu soal sense, baunya, vibe-nya. Terus dia bilang, kalau pengen bikin tempat yang baik untuk membangun society itu sebaiknya cuma 4 lantai. Kenapa? Supaya orang yang di lantai 4 tuh bisa ngelihat orang yang di bawah dengan clear dan bisa teriak gitu loh, bisa ngomong. Jadi ada kedekatan gitu. Ya nggak? Kira-kira tadi bapaknya ngomong kayak gitu ya. Jadi ternyata bisa loh kita tuh mendesain neighborhood supaya tuh kita feel connected. Ya kan? Sebenarnya tuh akan lebih baik kalau ada orang yang bekerja menata itu gitu. Kalau di luar negeri udah dibikin kayak gini. Kalau Indonesia udah dibikin belum? We never know ya, we never know. Mungkin ada yang udah bikin, tapi ada juga yang belum sadar sama hal ini. Okay, next.
you have the buildings, there's this little innovation called a balcony, which is more impactful than you might think.
For so many urban dwellers, and for so many people who are less wealthy, living in apartments, it's been really, really awful. And you're stuck inside, you can maybe open a window, but the magic of having a balcony. Now, it's a concrete slab and a metal rail, a wooden rail. This is not an expensive piece of technology, but it's an extra room. It becomes just that breathing space. Step outside, get some air, maybe get some rays, spread out, have a tomato plant. That's an amazing start.
And in the city.
Nah, dibilang pentingnya balkoni untuk retreat ya, untuk space di mana kita tuh bisa mencium udara segar, bisa melihat dunia sekitar, jadi kita nggak terkungkung terus di dalam.
And your home begins.
You place an object in space. If we could have put them together, they take up less space. But if you build this enclosure, it creates two spaces because you've got outside and inside. And it's very, very clear kind of structure. Okay, this is the street. Kind of, it's noisy. You can drive your car. You can scream. You know, this is where you open a store because there are people walking past. You go into the courtyard. Well, okay, in the courtyard, I'll be able to be quiet now because maybe there's kids sleeping. And so by having just two different kinds of worlds juxtaposed, that makes such a significant difference in the environments. We have many different properties, different kinds of ownership. There's social housing, private housing, cooperative. But in the middle, they've created this common space. You get this beautiful, sacred, quiet, safe space in the middle of the city for free. It's as simple as that. Good for nature and good for people.
Okay, that's great, but what if there isn't a blank sheet of paper for a neighborhood? What if you have to work within an existing structure?
You want me to go into the nature of the work of what I do? You know, that's a difficult one.
Actually, don't worry about it, Myra. We're just going to summarize it with voiceover. Like David, Myra helps cities by making recommendations for how they can improve the lives of their residents through design. One of the projects she helped with was here in the western part of Buenos Aires, a community known as Barrio 31. Barrio 31 is what we'd call an informal settlement, meaning it was built by the people, kind of like a favela. It didn't have all the infrastructure and smooth roads, and the construction wasn't exactly to code, but it did have a sense of community.
We start walking on the streets of Villa 31, and we're seeing that people are using the streets as a lounge. Kids are playing soccer, neighbors are pulling their chairs out of their home into the street. And
Halo guys,
Yuk,
having conversations.
aman nggak sekarang? Halo.
Aman.
mau coba aku aja yang
Aman ya?
tampilin kayaknya
Halo.
kayaknya
Cek.
RAM-mu terbatas ya. Ya masuk. Kalau suara masuk.
Masuk ya?
Masuk.
Enggak nih gara-gara internet ini. 720 deh.
Tapi patah-patah juga ini nonton di Zoom-nya.
Bentar ya. Oh gitu.
Mm-mm.
Bikin 480 deh ya.
Coba.
Bentar ya. 80 aja deh. Terus tadi 1080 kalau nggak salah.
Angkat masuk. Udah ngangkat
Bentar
ya.
ya. Tapi kok gambar kalian masih belum ini ya? Jalan ya?
Nah,
Halo, gambar kalian kayak
Banget.
diem gitu loh.
Gerak.
gambarmu aman kok. Gambarmu aman. Matiin aja dulu atau enggak
Bentar.
kameramu.
Halo. Sekarang
Yo.
clear nggak?
Dengar Pak.
Clear kok.
Clear ya.
Dari Pak.
Tinggal YouTube-nya aja.
Ntar aku stop share dulu.
Nah. Oh, ngangkat deh tadi.
Ya. Soalnya gambar kalian ini nge-freeze. Ntar aku bikin 4 aja. Oke, sampai sini tadi ya.
Nature of the work of
Buenos
what I do.
Aires.
You know, that's a difficult one.
Actually, don't worry about it, Myra. We're just going to summarize it with voiceover. Like David, Myra helps cities by making recommendations for how they can improve the lives of their residents through design. One of the projects she helped with was here in the western part of Buenos Aires, a community known as Barrio 31. Barrio 31 is what we'd call an informal settlement, meaning it was built by the people, kind of like a favela. It didn't have all the infrastructure and smooth roads, and the construction wasn't exactly to code, but it did have a sense of community.
We start walking on the streets of Villa 31, and we're seeing that people are using the streets as a lounge. Kids are playing soccer, neighbors are pulling their chairs out of their home into the street and having conversations with each other. Streets were incredibly full of social activity.
A lot of people might see a favela like this and want to start over. And listen, this show is called Hard Reset. But even I know a bulldozer isn't the answer to every problem. And while this neighborhood had a lot of challenges, it had also gotten a lot of things right. Mostly, the Gale team made suggestions about how Buenos Aires could improve the access, safety, and infrastructure in Barrio 31 without losing the local innovations or character.
There's a fair amount of arrogance in the architecture because there's this idea that the architect is an expert and the architect knows more. And when the design isn't working, they see it as an error on the user. At Gale, we flip that around. And we think that if people are not using something the way you thought, you were wrong in how you designed it. And we don't want to be fighting human nature. We want to be responding to human nature. Let people make and customize their homes so that they love their homes. That I would want. Our goal is to align a human desire and a human inclination with something that is good for society and for the environment.
You might be skeptical that you can imbue more of a community feel into your neighborhood. But sometimes it's about taking a guerrilla approach.
Welcome to West Oakland, California. This is humbly my backyard.
These are 4 homes in Oakland, California. Each of the neighbors decided to tear down sections of their fence to create a shared backyard. They created literal common ground for the greater good of their community. And it's pretty cool.
We got a lot of friends and family that come by. Fire pit, kind of give it just a nice vibe. Just a lot of plants. Japanese maple, another one of my favorites. These are as well our neighbor's yard. Video game. Over on this side, we have some planter boxes, a lot of garden beds.
In the United States, there's this idea that everyone needs their own yard and their own little picnic table and their pool and all these things, which is incredibly inefficient and incredibly lonely.
This is our neighbor, Dave. This is one of my best friends going on, and we're kind of the ones who linked up and kind of got our spaces together. Some intent, but not planned out.
This idea of the shared amenities while still maintaining your own home is a model that there isn't enough of.
So what if more citizens took more control of the spaces that make up their neighborhoods? What if they collaborated to share resources and create more common areas for interacting with one another? We might lose some of the privacy that we're used to in the suburbs, or the anonymity we're used to in the city. But we might also feel more connected and familial instead.
We shouldn't be making people have to choose between what they want to do and what they should do. That is why we see ourselves in the industry of changing behavior, not by penalizing, but by making the good behavior really desirable. Let's make walking and biking really desirable. Let's make dense urban living very desirable.
We've got these little islands, so every courtyard block's an island, so we can connect these different islands of lovely gardens, and suddenly you've got this unlimited system. So all of these things go together to make an ecosystem where it's great for families. And it's about this gentle exposure to difference by living in the city, which I think makes us potentially maybe into better human beings.
Come back next time for another episode of Hard Reset. Subscribe to FreeThink to watch our other original series.
What do you think about the video, guys? Anyone want to give his opinion or her opinion?
Yeah, maybe I'll go first.
Mm-hmm.
So from that video, it's more like a design thing, I guess. The main
Mm.
theme of the video is design thing, but in that design, the thing that mostly spoken of is community, society, and sense of belonging, I think. They learn how humans think and how people behave. And from that behavior, like they design a city, they design a place, they design something that actually people want. I think that's an interesting point because we can see how people design right now. Nowadays they design for the car. Nowadays they design for people who doesn't walk. Like look at the mall. The motorcycle park place is so far from the mall. As if they're saying that uh if you don't use car then just it is up to you. I mean like it's your fault for not using car.
So it's kind of discrimination.
Yeah, it's kind of discrimination. So I think it's beautiful how they portray like we we want to know what people want, and in that design people can make a community that is really really good for the people inside, and they can build society. And I think that's what will bring us to the neighbor talk, because look at them, because of the space that they can talk, they can take, people gather, people talk, people have a social life, unlike people in the city where there is no common space for people to gather around, and we don't really talk to other people. And I think that's where the design play the part. So yeah, I think that's my opinion. Monggo kalau
Okay, great. Great. Yeah, I agree with you ya. That's why pas aku nonton video itu kayak kebuka aja gitu pikiran. Jadi kayak sebenarnya bisa loh kita desain environment yang make
people friendly.
people have a sense of belonging, as you say, terus healthy, ada keakraban di situ, kita jadi lebih happy. Dari hal itu semua sebenarnya ujung-ujungnya kan supaya masyarakat itu tumbuh kan, growing, sejahtera, makin baik pendidikannya, makin baik kesehatannya, ujung-ujungnya sebenarnya untuk Indonesia juga gitu. Nah, kayak sebenarnya pemerintah tuh harusnya bisa hadir gitu untuk menyewujudkan hal itu, tapi entah kenapa nggak dilakukan. Nah, makanya sekarang tuh dengan adanya video itu kayak membuka gitu loh.
Eye
Ini
opening.
udah ada nih
Yeah.
contohnya gitu. Ini bukan hal yang nggak mungkin tahu gitu. Kita nggak seharusnya tuh nggak membiarkan masyarakat mendesain tempatnya sendiri-sendiri. Harusnya tuh ada semacam tangan yang tak terlihat gitu, yang mendesainkan itu dari luar. Supaya tadi masyarakatnya itu ada sense of belonging, happiness, ada ngumpul juga, kan? That's why dulu Ahok bikin RPtra di saat tanah Jakarta itu mahal, kita tetap harus bikin RPtra. Kenapa? Supaya orang itu ngumpul. Gitu. Anyone? Ada lagi mau kasih pendapat?
Maybe I'll give some opinion. Okay, so for our topic tonight about neighborhood or maybe urban design, not sometimes, usually in Indonesia, local government always membandingkan or got dilemma. What should they choose? Is great design of city or economic growth? So these two factor is always kayak bertabrakan gitu. Jadi seakan-akan seolah-olah tidak menyatu. Nah, maybe this is great pertimbangan dari si local government-nya itu kebanyakan ada di situ antara milih economic growth atau city atau daerah yang desain dengan baik gitu, sesuai dengan zonasi-zonasinya gitu sih kalau dari aku.
So that's the challenge ya,
Ya,
kayak
whether
tantangannya
it is
gitu.
economic growth or great design.
Oke.
Can I respond to that? Like that's
Okay.
interesting.
Sure,
Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I think that's true. Our government is like they tend to like feeling that they have to choose economic growth or livable city. When in fact, I think it's a fact, right? Because maybe not say fact. I think it's my opinion. Livable city and a place that well designed will make economic growth. Like take an example in Block M, you will see how many people go to Block M. And one of the biggest reason why people go to Block M is because it's easy to go there, right?
Yeah.
Like there are a lot of public transportation and it's nice to walk around there. So people go to Block M. They spend money and there will be, transaction there and the economy will grow because of that. But that's the interesting point is it's as if the local government isn't really seeing that and they tend to like choose the economic growth and like avoid to making economic growth and livable city hand in hand. I think that's because of capitalism. Everything
And
good.
maybe it's I think it's ini ya. So you didn't see it as a contrary kan? Sebenarnya harusnya
It
you
doesn't
make
have to be
the livable city harusnya jadi otomatis itu meningkatkan growth kan gitu kan ya? It's not contrary kan?
because that's what
Ya nggak
people
sih?
want. Yeah,
Ya kan? Jadi
doesn't have
dengan
to be
sendirinya ketika kita bikin livable city harusnya orang bakal berbondong-bondong ke situ, yang mana itu akan meningkatkan gairah ekonomi kan gitu kan?
exactly. But the government maybe I don't know. It's maybe just like my opinion. They tend to listen to the people in the middle upper class more than people in lower class because people in middle class, of course, they want like luxury, they want comfort, so they design something that only accessible. It's not only with like it's exaggeration. Accessible for people of middle upper class. It's not really. Look at Block M. It's hot. It's it's packed with people and it's not really comfortable. But it works and it making economy grow. But like maybe I think because of capitalism and stuff like that, the government think that those people have a lot of money. Those people doesn't really have money. So if you want more money from people like tax and stuff, just make the people with a lot of money to spend more and build something that they want. You see, that's like I think that's how the government think because look at our country like it doesn't really it's not really lower income friendly.
Oke. Ya kalau menurutku, oke apa Well?
Apa lanjut dulu.
Ya kalau
Biar
menurutku
dong.
sih sesimpel government nggak peduli sama korup aja sih. Jadi
Yeah, exactly.
karena dia nggak peduli, jadi nggak kepikiran aja. Karena udah sibuk korup kan. Dia sibuk buat mikirin dirinya sendiri, koleganya, kepentingan kelompok. Jadi untuk mikirin growing our society, make a good livable city itu jauh aja gitu dari pikiran dia. Jadi orang yang menggerakkan livable city ya pengembang-pengembang swasta, pemerintah nggak turut andil di situ karena pemerintahnya simply ignoran aja kalau menurutku gitu sih. Itu pandanganku. Jadi
Aku nimbrung ya.
boleh.
Okay, taking example from Block M, from my POV as a history guy, did you guys know that Block M is one of development plan from Jakarta local government? So if you remember, there is Block A, Block B, Block C, and so on. Block S, one of them is Block M. So in Kebayoran Baru, dulunya itu Kebayoran as a district, district kecamatan, subdistrict, kelurahan, as a district Kebayoran. Nowadays is Kebayoran Baru. Itu dulunya apa? Swarm, rawa-rawa atau ya tanah kosong, tanah tak bertuan itu. So in 90s I think, 1960-an, no 60s, Jakarta government plans to make a new settlement, especially for middle upper class, because in central Jakarta is mulai padat, get crowded, crowded.
Get crowded.
Nah, they invited swasta untuk bikin desainnya. Nah, untuk bikin desainnya dan
private sector.
Private sector to plan the design for Kebayoran area, new settlement for Kebayoran area, and that's how we get Block A still until Block S, I think, until Block S, as far as I know. So Block M is a great example, and nowadays it give a concept of TOD. I forget the panjangannya. TOD apa ya? Kayak titik-titik persimpangan ketemu antar moda gitu loh. Nah, itu justru malah contoh, karena zaman dulu kan semua angkutan bis gitu kan ngumpul di Blok M. Sekarang contohnya dibikin di Duku Atas sebenarnya. So if you guys go to Duku Atas, there is MRT, Jakarta,
transit oriented development.
Yeah, TOD. I just remember the abbreviation TOD. Yeah, that's the nice concept actually in transportation sector, how to develop a well-designed area so people didn't get too tired to go to many places. You got mall, you got garden in there. As you can see, Block M near Marta Tiahahu Garden, if I don't mistake. Yeah, so Block M is a great example to well-designed urban areas. But kalau Kebayoran Baru as a whole district, I think it's a good example too. If back again, there is a good and strong political will from government to make a good urban or good city. That's from me.